Hello, and welcome, everybody, to the Racing with Rob and Roller podcast. I'm Josh Roller, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Rob Peeters. Rob, wave to the crowd. He waves to the crowd.
And great radio, everybody.
Great radio, absolutely. We're so glad you have joined us this week, and we know we went long, way long last week, and we're going to try hard to keep on time, if not under today. That's kind of our promise here. Formula One was back, and they were in Baku after being canceled the Montreal and Turkey. So they moved races up. Oh well, they were in Baku. That was a great race. Red Bull dominated, but it wasn't the driver who you thought won the race. We'll get to that later. Then in Mid-Ohio, there was a thrilling drive through the field and a 3-wide pass for the win. And then in Sonoma, another track we missed in 2020. Hendrick Motorsports dominance once again. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, 1-2 finish. There will be more, and I'm not going to hold us up anymore, Rob, because like I said, we're going to try to be punctual today and on time. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you for your racing report.
You know what, Josh? I appreciate you doing that because, I think you're right. We went a little over last week because we called it the Indy 500 special. There was a lot to talk about. But, in terms of there being a lot to talk about, I guess there's a lot to talk about in Baku. But outside of that, NASCAR had fun road races. But I'm going to explain stage racing is really killing these road races here. But first of all, we're going to go ahead and jump right into Rob's racing report. I'm going to go ahead and jump in and tell you all the news that's happened in the past week. So starting off with Formula One, as Josh mentioned it in the Open, the Singapore Grand Prix has been canceled. Well, Josh actually mentioned a number of cancellations, but now the Singapore Grand Prix has been canceled for the second straight season. And it is rumored that the United States will host 2 Grands Prix, with both likely taking place at Circuit of the Americas. Racers Chris Medland reported that on Friday, June 4th, that F1 and Indianapolis Motor Speedway have not yet begun a dialogue of a 2021 race. So, from what I understood in that, it seemed like Roger Penske was kind of like, it's something he wants to do, but the economics of the situation are not there. It's not something that you can really put on short notice, especially a place like IMS to try and sell as many tickets as they would need. I think last year you had a little bit of an easier time because they were behind closed doors races. I think this year, if you're going to actually have fans at IMS, I think you would run into certain logistical issues. I'm sure with trying to figure out how many people to let in. You don't really know how many people are even going to show up or going to even show interest in it because you don't have, you're going to be selling tickets on such short notice. There's a lot of stuff that don't go into it, but maybe we could see what happens and still in the future. I don't want to say that it's off the table for just yet, because I still think Roger Penske is open to it, and I still think Formula One is open to it, obviously, but it's got to make sense, and that's where Penske probably was right on that. Moving on here, how about this? How about this for something interesting? We talked about this last week in our Upshift Downshift segment. F1 Managing Director Ross Brawn told Racer that F1 is open to scheduling the Monaco Grand Prix to avoid clashing with the Indianapolis 500. He also hinted that F1 is open to doing this to allow F1 drivers to compete in the Indy 500. So exactly what, again, I said last week is that, the only way I could see this being a good thing is if they encourage current F1 drivers to run Indianapolis. And it seems like, if they might almost be encouraging them to participate, which would be really neat. Just got to figure out how qualifying would go. Maybe they would, I don't know because if Monaco's like the week before, if they qualify on Saturday for the Monaco race, no, they qualify on Friday.
There's no Saturday activities for F1.
That's right, actually. So actually they wouldn't be able to get in on Saturday, but they would have to get in. If that F1 driver gets bumped and has to qualify again in the second day qualifying, they're going to have a lot of problems. Yeah, they're going to have they're going to have to get a second driver just to get the car in the show. And then, I guess at that point, if you could get a second driver, get the car in the show, it wouldn't really matter if you took the grid penalty starting at the rear because you'd already be there anyway. You'd already be in the last row, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But still, that would be a major conflict. You just have to hope your car was fast enough to get into the race. Still possible, though. Still possible. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago that Jackie Stewart was able to accomplish the abilities of winning Monaco the previous weekend and then flying all the way over to Indianapolis and competing in the 500 the next weekend. So anything's possible. Anything's possible. So we'll just see what happens. But I guess, yeah, that pretty much closes the book on Racemas as we know it. Looks like if we want a European racing fix, we're going to have to rely on whatever feeder series is racing that morning from now on. Which is fine with me, but I don't know how other people are going to take it. Moving on now to SRX. Scheduling conflicts will keep Tony Kanaan from competing at SRX events in Knoxville Raceway and Slinger Speedway. I think, are those Brazilian stock car events that he has?
Probably. I believe it was.
Think so. Because that's the thing. I know he has a Brazilian stock car event on the same day that he's scheduled to be in Gateway. So I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know if which one he's going to pick. The day before he's supposed to be in Gateway, I think, is actually how it is. So that's going to be fun, flying back and forth. But anyway, Hailie Deegan will actually be his substitute. So instead of Tony Kanaan in that car, it'll be Hailie Deegan will be subbing for him. That's an interesting choice, but probably the off-road experience, I guess, comes into play. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Slinger's paved.
Yeah, Slinger is paved. You're right. So
yeah.
I guess
I just think Haley's there. You know, whether you like it or not, she's there to draw eyeballs in. She's a young driver with a great social media following, and there you go.
I know, but I'm just saying you could accomplish the same thing with Danica Patrick and have her actually be in contention to win the thing.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I mean, she could have got the call. She could have said no.
You're right. I think Danica's done driving. You're right.
I think if she was called, total speculation here, but if she was called, I'm guessing she probably said no.
She probably said no. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that, but that's my thing. Like, you're right. I think Haley's was kind of thrown in there to get a few extra eyeballs on there. Don't want to be mean to Hailie, but her truck results just have not been there this year, and I think
she's a rookie,
right? But her ARCA stats weren't really there last year either, and I didn't really seem like, I don't know, rookie or not. Okay, rookie or not, I feel like she should have made she should have some more top 10s by now. You know what I mean?
I think she's getting there. So I've seen improvement in the past few races from her. She's just got to get used to the truck. So unfortunately, there's not enough races obviously, we've talked about this. Not enough races in the truck so you to really get your feet wet before the season's over. And not enough consistency in the schedule. So hopefully she's back in trucks next year and she's able to, really fine-tune her stock car craft before she makes the jump to Xfinity.
I don't know. Maybe I'm poisoned by looking at Ty Gibbs and how quickly he's coming up and how fast he is already.
Ty Gibbs is making everybody look bad. He's making veterans look bad.
I guess you're right. I guess I'm being too harsh on Hailie. There's a lot of drivers that I think are getting moved up too quickly and that are being hyped too much. Like Drew Dollar's another one. Everybody likes to talk about Drew Dollar. Like, this dude is not that great. What are we talking about, everybody? I don't know. I'm being too mean to some guys, but it's an opinion show. Here's a guy I've been Yeah, here's a guy I've been plenty mean to. An IndyCar news, Santino Ferrucci, old ramen noodlehead, will be behind the wheel of the number 45 for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing this weekend at Detroit's Belle Isle, following up his 6th place finish at the Indianapolis 500, which, again, surprised me. Props to him. Major props to him, but surprised me. That's for sure. So, yeah, I guess we got to deal with Ferrucci. Hopefully he keeps his nose clean out there in Detroit. You know what? Actually, I take that back. I actually wouldn't care if Ferrucci spiced things up at Detroit, because I think that'll be the most exciting thing that Detroit has to say for the next however long it's on the schedule. I guess now that Roger Penske owns the series, I guess we're just stuck with Detroit until people just finally realize they need to stop going to the track, because it's not a very good track. I'm sorry. The pavement is coming up. The track is falling apart.
It's picturesque. That's why.
Overlooking Detroit?
Well, you're looking over the Renaissance Center, and
that's about as picturesque as a Cleveland Grand Prix overlooking Cleveland. Neither of those cities are picturesque. I don't care how many people love those cities, but I don't think about Cleveland and Detroit as being two picturesque cities. That's just me.
I'm not telling you.
You're not
that's how
going
I
there.
feel.
I'm sorry.
I'm telling
I'm
you
gonna make personal apologies to Tim Allen and Drew Carey for insulting their favorite cities. I'm sorry to both of you. Personal apologies only to Drew Carey and Tim Allen, not the actual residents of Cleveland and Detroit, just to Drew Carey and Tim Allen.
Well, we just got blown up on Twitter from those people, those cities, man.
We are 10 minutes into the show and I'm off the rails already. This is what happens. NASCAR news. Matt Colling doesn't have anything to report as his team continues to acquire a charter. As far as a full-time driver for his Cup Series team goes, he did say that he expects AJ Allmendinger to compete part-time. It has now been added by the Associated Press that AJ Allmendinger would go full-time racing in Cup if Colling asked him, but believes that Justin Haley is likely the driver to be Colling's first full-time driver, with himself doing specialty tracks. I believe that fully, personally. I think we saw that coming. Still surprising that Justin Haley has decided to stick with really an R&D car for Spire. I feel like they could be giving him as good of cars as Corey LaJoie gets, which isn't saying much, but compared to what the 77 gets, the 7 looks a lot faster. Just an interesting decision. Not to say that it's a bad decision, but I just feel like the first year of a Cup, I would want to have, like, the way I would do it was, I'm not Matt Colling, but I would put Allmendinger in the car full time and then run Haley in that specialty car for the races that he's not doing with Spire. That's just me. Because I would want that veteran leadership on the team the first year of the Cup team rather than, kind of a rookie driver. Not to say Haley's a rookie driver. I mean, he technically has one win, and he has a number of Cup starts under his belt. He has an All-Star race under his belt. Not to say he's a rookie, but he's young. I mean, Allmendinger has been in NASCAR since 2007. There's a lot of experience there.
I think it's probably Spire's desire to have 2 full-time drivers next year. I just think the right one didn't come across at least in time to sign this year. So my guess is that, Corey LaJoie will have a full-time teammate in 2022.
And that will no doubt help Spire, but then that makes me kind of wonder how much that's going to help Colling. Because again, not to say Justin Haley's a bad driver. I'm sure, if he wants to run for Rookie of the Year in a competitive car, which Colling has shown to be, I think even in the one-off cars of the Daytona 500, at COTA, they were very competitive. So it's not like they don't have the pace already in just one-off R&D cars, but it's my question of, is Justin Haley the right driver? This is not an insult to Justin Haley. I'm seriously very impressed with Justin Haley, but I just wonder if he's ready to make that step up to full-time Cup with Colling, and if that's the right move for Colling in their first year as a full-time Cup team. I just think I would rather have a veteran presence, but that's just me. Moving on to the next piece of news here. There are some changes at Rackley WAR. Now, this bothers me. This makes me sad. The team and Timothy Peeters have mutually parted ways, and Josh Berry will now drive the 25 truck for the team at Texas, Nashville Superspeedway, and Pocono. Now, I'm not sad about Josh Berry getting the ride, but I am sad about Timothy Peeters losing the ride. I like Timothy Peeters. I think he's a great truck driver. He's a Truck Series staple, and I think we need more of those drivers that, aren't Johnny Sauter and Matt Crafton, guys that, kind of have, I don't know how to say, like, I don't like Johnny Sauter, but Matt Crafton has a very kind of boring personality, kind of like not in a mythical Paul Menard sort of way, but just kind of like who have I insulted today? How many people have I insulted? Haley Deegan, the entire city, Cleveland. Detroit, Cleveland, now Matt Crafton. I don't
Johnny
mind
Sauter.
Insulting Santino Ferrucci or Johnny Sauter, but now I'm really bad. I'm sorry. I'm really bad today. What is wrong with me?
You didn't have your Wheaties this morning, did you?
No, I didn't. I don't know what's going on. But William Byron is going to piloting a second truck for Rackley WAR at Nashville Superspeedway. So I guess to get Willie B some more experience at Nashville, which is probably a good idea. Never a bad idea to get more experience on a new track that you're going to go to for the first time. And that's true. I mean, there's drivers out there who've run at Nashville before, like Kyle Busch, but there's a lot of drivers who haven't been there, because it's been off the schedule for 10 years.
Yeah.
Which is still crazy to think about.
It's Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski. I mean, are they like the only ones who really have enough?
Oh, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick made starts
Clint Boyer,
there.
Kevin Harvick, yeah,
I think
you're right.
Austin Dillon made some starts there in the trucks.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like
So there's a few.
it's not like most of the field is out of there, but
there's like 10, 12 drivers who have at most who have experience.
yeah, but the rest of them are gonna have a tough time adapting. Well, maybe we'll see. Nashville's. I'm curious to see what kind of a race Nashville puts on.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
How about this? This is interesting. 10-time World of Outlaws Sprint Car champion Donnie Schatz will make his NASCAR debut when the Camping World Truck Series visits Knoxville Raceway on July 9th. He will drive the number 17 for DGR Crosley, David Gilliland Racing. That'll be a pretty big deal for that. That's pretty cool. Look at that. Look at the drivers that NASCAR is raking in from the dirt. That's pretty cool. Donnie Schatz, that's pretty cool.
I really hope we see David Gravel get a shot back with GMS at Knoxville because he was supposed to drive at Eldora last year, and obviously we know that didn't happen. And who was the other driver? There was someone else who was supposed to get the shot.
Wyndham.
Chris Wyndham, that's right. He was supposed to get a shot.
He was supposed. I remember. I was just about to suggest him. I wanted to see him because he was announced. I remember we talked about it like on the show.
Yeah.
We talked about Chris Wyndham getting that drive for Eldora, and then Eldora just gets canceled, and the whole deal follows through. And especially Chris Wyndham's been having a good time so far in USAC this year. I believe it is Indiana Midget Week this week as well. So we'll probably be able to get to see him quite a bit running in some of that. So that's big news for the Truck Series. Last piece of news here, also Truck Series related. Chase Elliott will drive the number 24 GMS Racing Chevrolet this weekend at Texas as the team continues to use a variety of drivers since Rafael Lessard's departure from that number 24 red. That's right, we are going to Texas this weekend. Sorry, everybody. We have to watch Texas and Detroit this weekend, man. I'm sad. That makes me sad. I'm not excited about this.
Well, Rob, let me cheer you up. We're going to the feature paint scheme now.
Okay, now I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'm sure I know you're going to be excited to talk about this one because I know I love your paint scheme and I can't wait to talk about mine. So for everyone listening, feature paint scheme, we feel like we haven't explained this in a while, but we choose a year, we choose a series, and we choose a paint scheme. Each of us choose a paint scheme for it. So this week it's the 2002 NASCAR Busch Series. So Rob, share yours with everyone.
Oh, yes, one of the best ones. Joe Gibbs Racing had some really nice-looking Pontiacs in the Busch Series back in the day, and they really make me long for when those cars looked as beautiful as they did. Those Pontiac Grand Prix, man, you could not beat those things, and especially when they had a little bit of a aero advantage on super speedways. You get to see a bunch of Chevy teams that didn't really have a bunch of manufacturer support. They would run Pontiacs back in the day, and actually even in this year, this paint scheme that I'm about to mention actually did run on a Chevrolet at Talladega, but that was the only time it ran on a Chevrolet. So that's pretty interesting. It's also the 2002 Monte Carlo, which is one of my also personal favorite looking stock car bodies. So pretty neat to have this paint scheme on it. But Mike McLaughlin's number 18 MBNA Pontiac for Joe Gibbs Racing. Always been a fan of MBNA paint schemes, especially those that were on Pontiac. So obviously Ward Burton's in the past. And then naturally Mike McLaughlin drove this car. Jason Leffler, Coy Gibbs. I think Coy Gibbs even drove a variation of this car in the Truck Series as well.
I think he drove the 20. It was a 20.
Yes, it was a 20. It was car number 20.
And was it JD who drove the 48 truck?
I'm sorry.
Was it JD Gibbs who drove the 48 truck, or was that still Coy?
I believe so.
Okay.
I think Coy was in the 20. I know Coy was in the 20. That's all I know about that.
I'm gonna look it up because that's gonna. Go ahead and talk. I'm gonna look it up.
I mean, we're talking about Ty Gibbs all the time. We might as well talk about his father too, right?
Yeah. Right.
Talk about Coy Gibbs, but Mike McLaughlin more so about Mike McLaughlin, who is easily one of my favorite Busch Series regulars from back in the day. He had a pretty good year in this car and in the year prior, and he didn't do too bad. But this was towards the end of his career. But he kind of went out with a bang. He got a win at Talladega in 2001, and he finished fourth in the championship in this year, 2002. Beautiful looking car, beautiful, kind of like a dark or kind of like a mid, kind of like a sap green, tree green kind of style. Darkish green on the Pontiac, and then you had the silver and black that just made it look even better. Truthfully, this car was absolutely pretty, and if you get a chance to just look this car up on J-Ski or something, I mean, it just really appreciate it. It's a beautiful looking car, and I really loved seeing it. But this was Mike McLaughlin's final full season in the Busch Series. He ran a couple other one-offs in the Busch Series in a couple of years, but never ran a full series after 2002. But hey, he won out, finishing fourth in the championship, and had a number of top 5 and top 10 finishes. So pretty darn good season for Mike McLaughlin, and it's pretty fun to remember this car.
Yeah, just a note before I share mine. It was JD Gibbs who drove the 48 MBNA Chevrolet for Joe Gibbs in the trucks. So yeah, he also drove a Hot Rod magazine truck too. For mine, I'm going with Hank Parker Jr.'s number 36 GNC Live Well Dodge for Welliver Jessel Motorsports. As I have noted before a number of times in the past, this is one of my all-time favorite NASCAR paint schemes, and I'll explain why in a moment. But let's just call this car base red. From the nose of the car along the sides to the rear wheels was like a white flame, and then it was blue in the middle of the flame to kind of give it a little bit more, flair. Well, that pun unintended there. But then the wheels were red. The number was white with red and blue accents. I mean, this car is just beautiful. It is just beautiful. I love it. And they were really the only team the full-time team to run Dodges in 2002 too. Because remember, as I shared a little over a month ago, it's been almost 2 months now. Dodge didn't participate in the Busch Series in 2001, so this was their first year back in the Busch Series, maybe in the Busch Series ever. But yeah, so it was cool to see this car on track with a Dodge. Hank Parker Jr. ran this car in 31 of the 34 races in the 2002 season. He captured 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s, in a win at the glorious Pikes Peak International Raceway. Glorious. Yes, it's always nice when you have a feature paint scheme in the Busch Series. It was at a track that was one of the standalone races in a AAA market. It's just great. So unfortunately for Parker, he finished 14th in the standings and was out of a ride for the next season. But this was one of my favorite paint schemes because I call it a business trip. It was like a business trip / guys trip with my dad back in 2002 to Ohio. At the time, my family was living in Elkhart, Indiana, and my dad had a couple customers over in the Ohio area. We stopped at a number of different places, and I can't remember if it was like 1 or 2 nights. I can't remember. But, along the way, my dad was, say, hey, let's just stop in here and let's get you some die casts. Well, this car, that Parker that I just selected, was one of 3 124 scale racing champion die casts that I walked out of, and I'm not sure where it was. I'm going to say Kmart because let's give a little shout out to the struggling company. I think it was Kmart, and I have loved this car ever since. And yeah, it's just a great looking car that I wish could have ran like just one racing cup, just one race. Anyways, it would be cool to see because he did run one race in 2001, I believe, for Evernham. I think it was 2001. It was either 2001 or 2002. I can't remember which.
He ran the 91.
91, yes.
I think at the tail end of
Rockingham.
2002 season. No,
2002.
Was 2001. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think I know you're right. I remember the car.
Yeah, I'm looking it up myself right here. Because it was sponsored by USD Sheetrock, right?
Yes, it was, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, Hank Parker Jr. I think it was his only Cup career start, too, if I remember correct. Yeah, it was 2002, 1 race, his only Cup start. Yeah, and it was at Rockingham, the third to last race of this season. So, yeah, anyways, great paint scheme. I love that one. It always will be one of my favorite ones. And, I think it's just typical that, whenever you get into a sport, you're going to latch on to that era more than others. And I will stand here and tell you that if I were to write down my top 10 NASCAR paint schemes ever, probably 8 of them are going to come from like the 01 to 3 season, and this Hank Parker Jr. scheme is going to be one of them. Even when I look at the whole scope of the 3 national divisions, it's going to be included in that. So that was a featured paint scheme this week. Rob, let's go ahead and we're making good headway here. We're keeping our punctual promise. Let's move on to the first race we're going to talk about, the Xfinity Series in Mid-Ohio. You talk about stages. I'm going to talk about the modified pit road procedures. I didn't like it. I didn't like it last year at Road America. I understand why they're doing it. I think it's partly because, A, they want to save teams money, and partly B, because it's COVID times still. And in years past, the teams, as the race was happening on Saturday, the pit crew should fly to Mid-Ohio out of Charlotte, pit the cars on Saturday, then fly to Sonoma or wherever they were at for, in the past, I think it had been Michigan, so it was a little bit of a smaller jump. So, they fly to Michigan and then pit the cars on Sunday, right? I get it why, and if the COVID's the real excuse, I'm cool with it. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you, the Xfinity Series needs to be a carbon copy of the Cup Series, with the exception of maybe a few horsepower here and there, lesser than the Cup, in different tracks. All right, they need to run the same car. They need the same rules, the same everything as far as that's concerned. And they need to have live pit stops. The Truck Series, you want to go to modified pit stops, that's fine. That's how that series began. That's when the series was in its glory days, when you had halftime. You run 125 laps, you come down pit road. The drivers get out, the TV cameras and radio crews get to interview them, then they hop back in the car or the truck, and they go run another 125 laps. I just don't like the modified pit road procedure, because to me, I'm like, this is just it. I feel like you had one playbook or two. You had realistically you had 2 playbooks, and that's already when you have stages, as I know you're going to get into. So I just didn't like that. Other than that, solid race, good racing from Mid-Ohio, in my opinion, from the Xfinity Series. Rob, before we talk about how the closing went down, what did you think about everything?
I still thought it was, it was an entertaining race, I guess, on track. There was definitely a lack of strategy, which was disappointing. It makes it difficult to enjoy a road course race really without strategy. I think that affected the ARCA race as well, because the ARCA race ARCA does modified pit stops as well, so it's kind of odd to have those on a road course. I understand why they do it. I mean, I do and I don't, but at the same time, I don't know. That kind of made it difficult to watch. I didn't hate it. I thought the on-track action was good. I mean, Mid-Ohio usually produces pretty good on-track action, but really, when you're watching a road race, you want to see some good strategy out of pit road, because you want to see the guys who can try different things, who can try and make positions up on pit road and try different strategies and see if they can get, cautions to fall the right way. And I guess you do the same thing for an oval, but on a road course, you kind of really need that to spice things up a little bit. So it's just disappointing for me. And then the stages didn't help. Obviously, it just felt like there's just too much downtime in the race overall, which was really kind of disappointing to me, because overall I felt like when they were racing, it was entertaining and it was fun to watch, but there was just too much downtime, with the modified pit stops and the stages. It's just, I don't mind my road races running green to the finish. You know what I mean? I don't really mind that, especially when there's pit stops to be made. So, but that's just me. I'm sure that that's just how I interpreted the race. I'm sure there's other ways to say it, but overall, like I said, from a racing standpoint, good stuff. It's just, it lacked some stuff that I would have expected to have seen.
Yeah. I think I can't remember if I've shared it on this show or not, or if I've shared it with you. I'm kind of the opinion that, if you can't fully get rid of stages in just road course racing because of the lack of consistency, across the board, I would like to see them go to one stage and put it at like 125% fuel length into the race. So if I don't know what remember the pit or the fuel window was for the Xfinity cars at Mid-Ohio, but let's say that it was, 20 laps. We'll put it 25. Okay, that's when that's when the one and only stage is going to fly. So you're either going to force guys to pit early. Okay, we're going to pit when the window opens at lap 5, or we're going to run it out to the end on lap 20, and maybe we'll catch a caution, and maybe we'll be able to run out and make one less pit stop this race and have track position. I feel like that's opens up the playbook a little bit, and then at the end, we got to either make one or two pit stops. How are you going to play it out? Where are you going to pit when the window opens, or are you going to drive all the way out to the end? Are you going to bank on cautions? Maybe you can stretch it out more. Who knows? I feel like that would be a really good way to go. I feel like, again, I just think the playbook opens up at that point more so than it is now. And that same thing, that will say the same thing, but I won't repeat myself there when we get to the Cup race. My same stances in the Cup as it is in the Xfinity Series. But bad race for Noma. It made it a corner. Oh my gosh, that was a heartbreaker because I think he was poised to have a good day, and but I liked it. It's different. You talk about Coda run off his pavement. The mistakes aren't penalties there necessarily, except maybe a pass through. Here, you're kicking up dust, and he couldn't see where he was going. And I think he hit like the loop for an alternate course, and he just bounced the car off the pavement. And oh my gosh, his day was done. I'm like, he's gone. When he came out of the smoke that was dust, I'm like, he's done. He's done. Chalk this to 40th place finish. Good day for Josh Berry and Jordan Anderson Racing. Kind of benefited from a few cautions at the end. But what did you think about Austin Cindric choosing the outside? I don't get why he chose the outside on that restart.
I don't understand why anybody chooses lanes, why any driver chooses a lane. Usually it comes down to just an impulse decision at the last minute, or thinking the race is going to go a certain way that it doesn't. I don't know where he's going with it. Maybe the idea was to get a better run into the turn. I don't know, man. I think it confused me about it as much as it confused you, I think.
I think it opened up the door. Right then, I think AJ Allmendinger knew I'm winning this race, because he knew he was going to be able to get the jump on Ty Gibbs and have the preferred lane entering turn 1, which he did, and he took him 3 freaking wide, clears them, and really, hey, what happened to Austin Cindric after that had nothing to do with going 3 wide. Nothing to do with it. That was all a chain reaction of who was being run off track, came back on and hit Annette, and Annette hits Haley, and Haley hits Cindric, and guess what? He's the unlucky one there and goes spinning, and he was able to climb back up to 14th, I think. But still, a day he dominated and had a 10-second lead because Allmendinger drove back up through. And I thought that was an interesting penalty that nearly cost them. Nearly cost them the race. That they were 3 seconds shy on the mandatory. You have to be on pit road for 50 seconds and they're green. Again, modified pit procedures, folks. It just kills me. But yeah, they got lucky. Look, hey, the lightning can strike very quickly, but sunshine can rain upon you just as quick, and that's what happened with Allmendinger on this race. So congratulations to them and Colleague, because that was a hometown race for Matt Colleague and his company. I think they said it plenty of times. 90 minutes away from the track. So again, I enjoyed the race. Aside from you had some extra brakes in there you didn't need, and the modified pit procedures. The on-track green flag racing was excellent from Mid-Ohio. I do like it just staying in Xfinity track, because I think it's a great place for them just to be, hey, this is our time. This is our road course. We're going to have it. You guys have Sonoma. As much as I'd love to see both the Cup go to Mid-Ohio and Xfinity go to Sonoma just once, to see it happen, I don't want to see it happen either, because I like the uniqueness to each schedule. Again, now, as we've preached before, going back to 2002, how many standalone events were there in the Busch Series? A lot. Okay, on to Formula One.
Yay! This is gonna be fun to talk about, because this was a great race. I'm sorry to say, I'm gonna upset all the NASCAR fans out there, but this was my favorite race of the weekend. I think.
I don't think you'd be completely wrong in saying that. I enjoyed Sonoma just because I enjoyed all three races, but yeah, I think Formula One was very much the race winner of the weekend. Let's start with let's just jump right into it. The tire failures. What are your thoughts? Were they tire failures or tire punctures?
They were tire failures. I think there's no real way to say it. It was, look, Pirelli's backed into a corner, and I understand, you can't bring tires that are too durable. You have to bring tires that'll fall off, but you have to. There's a fine line there, because if you bring tires that fall off too quickly, that can be dangerous. You don't want to have tires that are expected to go a certain distance, but actually in reality can only go maybe about a quarter of that or half of that or something. You don't want to see situations like that, and I think that's what we saw on Sunday. I think we saw situations where, I think both Stroll as well as Verstappen, they were on the hard tires, I believe.
Yes, they were,
and they were trying to go most of the race with them. I saw you saw George Russell do that. He stopped on the first lap. He took in tires, went on to the hards, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And tried to go most of the race on the hards. And it's a difficult call for Pirelli, because these are the hard tires. The hard tires shouldn't fail like that. And I think from what I understood is towards the end of the race there, Red Bull pretty much pleaded like, hey, if we can't resume this race on the tires that we have. Where the data that we have is showing that, and I think Mercedes was in the same boat as well. They were like, look, the data that we are showing on these tires is they're not going to last if we restart this race without changing tires.
Well, Red Bull said that there was no indication at all that the tires were failing on Verstappen's car. It was instant.
Right, exactly. But what they were feeling was like, because we don't know whether or not what caused this, there's some serious safety concerns, because
correct.
If these are failing just like that, we don't know if it's tire age, we don't know if there's something on the track, we don't know if there's it could be something. It's just safer to put on a fresh pair of tires and go back out there, instead of trying to get everybody to run on these potentially dangerous tires for another 3 or 4 laps and risk something like that happening again, where the cars are close together and you could have a really big accident. It's one thing to have those accidents happen when the cars are spread apart, but when you're restarting the race on that, I just understand. I think some people were upset because they didn't think that they should be able to change tires under a red flag condition.
That's a rule.
I think it is. Yeah, I mean,
that's common practice in F1.
Yeah, it is common practice in F1, and especially in that situation under a red flag condition. And I understand there was a lot of criticism for why they went to the red flag instead of just letting the race play out under the yellow. I really do think it was the smartest idea was to bring all the cars down pit road, have them change tires, and then clean it. And while they're doing that, clean up the accident wreckage, and then send them back out there to ensure that at the very least, upon a restart, things are going to be safe. I mean, sure, you could have let the thing run out all the way to the end, but who wants to see that? Who wants to see that? This is a TV only show, man. This is a TV only show. There's no fans out here in Baku. This is a TV only show. You've got to, at the very least, give the fans that have stuck out this long with Verstappen crashing and Hamilton not doing well, something to watch and something to get excited about. And I'm glad that they did that.
Hamilton was doing all right. Not to counter or to say you're wrong, but Hamilton was second at the time of caution. I don't think he was having a bad day, but he hadn't led it. You're right. He hadn't led it all, but it wasn't having a bad day.
Okay, I shouldn't say that. I feel like I'm really wrong. He had led a couple of laps, but not a lot.
Right. I thought it was a right call too to go red flag. I didn't like it initially because I'm like, dang it, But because that was a purist in me saying, you let the race run out. There's no reason to red flag. It's a crash. It's a crash. Don't red flag it. But I think you're right. To get the Because, I mean, you could have had a failure. A tire failure can happen at any time, whether it's caution, safety cars out, or under, green flag racing conditions. A tire failure can happen at any time. So bringing them down pit road and stopping them, allowing the track to get cleaned up. Yeah, you gave the fans all watching on TV, you gave the promoter something to go with, going into next year. And, that was a heck of a finish. Look, it shook things up.
It really did.
And it really kind of technically unshook things up, because you were going to have Verstappen walk away with 0 points and Hamilton more than likely walk away with at least 15. So he was going to overtake him in the in the Drivers' Championship.
It was going to be a really interesting Drivers' Championship shakeup, but in the Constructors' Championship, it was going to be even more fun, because Hamilton was going to be the only Mercedes to score points and Perez was going to be the only Red Bull to score points. Now, actually, it's much different, because the championship, the way it played out, is Red Bull actually has that one-up. Mercedes had no points scored at Baku. No points. Bottas and Hamilton both out of the points. Red Bull only had 1, but they scored max points, so it's like totally fine. They have that one-up now because they had Perez also in the points. Now, this. It took the word right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, this is a huge shakeup. It was a shakeup, and then it got unshaken, but it still got shaken up because Perez won. And then this is exactly why we were going back to what we were talking about, like late last year, early this year. Why Red Bull signing Perez was the best idea? Because I'm sure last year with Albon, where would Albon have been? Like 8th? 9th,
I don't think he would have been there, no.
Maybe even probably out of the points in 11th. You could have had no points for Red Bull, or at the very least 2 to 5 points max. And at that point, you're not taking advantage of Mercedes failing to score points on that. You're only taking advantage of them by like 5 points. That's not nearly enough to gap them when you are given this opportunity. Red Bull now has a driver that can go out there and score max points for himself. And score a win for the team. I mean, they were looking for a period of time before Max Verstappen crashed. They were still looking at extending the lead, because Perez would have probably finished on the podium, if not 4th, and gotten a good amount of points. And then Max would have gotten max points for winning the race. Hamilton would have only gotten points for finishing 2nd, and Valtteri would have gotten none. So already then and there, you've got that one up. Every time Valtteri fails to score points, Red Bull has to be able to capitalize, and now they're finally being able to capitalize on it. And forget the Drivers' Championship at this point. If I know they want to see Max do it, I know a lot of people want to see Max do it. I'm sure Hamilton wants a nice, good fight with Max. But let's be honest, if I'm Red Bull, I'm just sitting there being like, awesome. Checo, Max, great. Whatever you guys are doing, just keep doing it. No, we have no notes at this point. Max, it's not your fault. It happened. It's over. You were leading most of the race. You were going to win the race anyway. You should have won the race. It's okay. Checo won the race anyway. Nothing bad happened out of it. We can move on as a team and continue to take these things in stride. And if the reverse happens, where Checo's leading and then he has a problem and Max ends up sweeping it and winning, that's still good for Red Bull. You have to take advantage of those moments when Mercedes is weak. And they did it on Sunday. They did exactly what they needed to do by having 2 drivers that were capable of winning.
Yeah, and you said, Hamilton, it was a 1-2 Red Bull running order when it happened. So they were about to walk away with 25 points from Verstappen, plus 1 for his fastest lap. Then you get another 18 for Perez in 2nd. Hey, they're walking away with 40, I can't do my math here, 44 points. That's awesome. For anyone who just wants a challenge and wants to see Mercedes on their heels, that's what you're about to get. And unfortunately, the tire failed. It stinks. Yeah, I definitely think there were failures. Could there hypothetically have been a puncture? Yeah. But once, twice like that in really the same situation, same straight. I'm not going to say, it's not like, okay, once you fool me twice, okay, and 3 times, it's no. I think it definitely was a failure. There were failures on that. I agree. And you said the point where, they're in a corner. You don't want the tires to be too strong, because you're like, okay, great, there's no fall off. You're just around here waiting for someone to make a mistake.
And you need to have tire fall off and tire management in this current era of F1 where there's no refueling.
Right.
drivers are not out there trying to conserve fuel anymore. They're focusing 100%, well, not 100%, but they're focusing on a lot of other things, but they're primarily focusing on their tire life and tire health. And you have to be able to be in the middle of that, and really, it's tough for Pirelli because you're going to have moments like this. And this is not the first time we've had Pirelli tires blow out before. I think back to Silverstone in 2013 when we had a ton of major blowouts by Pirelli. I mean, you've had even more recent races that I can't think of off the top of my head, but you know what I mean. But yeah. I'm sure people who know are probably thinking about them. It's not like this is a new thing for Pirelli, but it is a tough situation when you're trying to make pit strategy out of tires and there's no fuel strategy in addition to it to kind of help balance it out. You look at other racing series that can refuel, like IndyCar, for example. Those, you watch an IndyCar race, there's much more to it. Yeah, a driver can conserve the tires and have outstanding tires, but at the end of the day, if they're not good at fuel saving, that's a problem. Here in F1,
that's not
if you have great tires that can go that way, that's a problem. You still need to have people be able to make pit stops. So yeah, it's just a tough situation for Pirelli to be in, but it's hard to, you don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but hey, this is also safety we're talking about. We need to be a little bit better at controlling major failures like this.
And you know what? I'm not going to be that harsh on them because, hey, they're the only one out there, and they're trying to do their part. We talk about this, not to bring NASCAR back into this, but we talk about this in NASCAR. What makes a great race? The right combination of track configuration, car and aero, and tires, okay? You've got to have all three in unison. Well, Pirelli was trying to do their job when you have a great street circuit. The car is not great, okay? The overall car design and regulations for F1 are not suitable for the best racing. And Pirelli's trying to say, hey, we obviously bought the wrong tire here. They're too durable. Let's try something different. Well, they're going to go back to the drawing board and try to find a way to find a happy medium. Okay, how can we make these hard tires last how long we need them to last? That's my view on it. Obviously it's a safety issue, but it's not like we had 10 failures for the past 5 races either. This isn't, I'm not alarmed by it, but I don't know, maybe I'm not reacting enough to it. But notes here, Aston Martin gets their first podium. All right. Vettel on the podium. It was a Red Bull reunion on the podium, in fact, because Gasly was third in an AlphaTauri. So that was good. It's good to see him finally get a podium. I forgot, looking out here, he has actually scored points in every race this year. Just has had some rough races that have kept him maybe from a top 6 finish in each race instead of, he had a 9th at Bahrain and was 10th at Portugal and Spain. But he's kind of had the speed to compete in that top 6, just hasn't been able to close it out and have issues. And Yuki Tsunoda got 7th, man.
Yeah, man. How about that?
Major rebound for that cat. And then obviously Vettel being on podium for the first time since 2019, and
huge for Vettel. I mean, how can you not celebrate that?
Oh, I don't know how. That's good. He's still here. He's still got it. We all knew that. Rob, you and I at least knew that. I mean, there's some people who certainly doubted it. There's people who said he should have taken a sabbatical year and just came back next year. But no, I think he did the right thing, and the team is slowly readjusting to now their new place on. Okay, we are. We got knocked off our pedestal a little bit because of the regulation changes. So, just a great race, like you said, great race. I enjoyed it. Would have, it's cool to have a shake-up like that at the end, but, you don't like it to be in that kind of dramatic fashion. All right, Cup Series time, Sonoma. What else you guys say? I mean, if you're going to win a race right now in the Cup Series, you've got to beat Hendrick Motorsports, specifically Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. Hands down.
I have some things to say about this race, and
go ahead.
Here's the thing. Okay, so it was an interesting race. It was an interesting race. I won't say it was a good race. I won't say it was a bad race. I'll just say it was an interesting race. And the reason why I'm going to say it was an interesting race was because I I think we all like NASCAR road races. I think we all have come to kind of this idea that they usually put on fairly decent races. But the thing that has just been killing me is when you have these races that aren't 100% slugfests, or even if they are, you have situations where Fox doesn't broadcast it. I heard of a number of issues, a number of incidents on Sunday that Fox didn't broadcast or show or have camera footage of. I mean, this is dramatic things that are happening throughout the race that we have no footage of, no knowledge of, no mention of it. I have no honest idea what I understand they're getting towards the end of their broadcast season, okay? They've got one more race coming up, and that's the All-Star race, so how much are they going to care about that? Who knows? But this is really bad when there's cars wrecking each other all over the track field, basically, on the last couple of laps, and Fox doesn't even showcase any of it. I mean, there's stuff happening all over the track, and we need to see that because we don't have any strategy to monitor anymore. I mean, stage racing has pretty much taken that out. I mean, I don't want to say it's taken it out, but it's adjusted upon it and made it to the point where you have these mandatory cautions. It's not like somebody can come in and strategize in a way that's completely different from everybody else. I mean, everybody kind of has to do the same thing. Some people can decide, oh, well, I want to stop before the stage ends. Oh, well, I want to stop during the stage caution. Well, that's not really a strategy. That's just a choice. That's just a personal choice or a personal preference based on what the driver is feeling, based on how the tires are performing, based on how much fuel is in the car. That's not really a strategy. That's not necessarily asking the driver to hit a certain mark. That's not strategy. It's just kind of a choice. And I don't really think that that's very interesting. So, number one, you have that taking me out of it. And that took me out of COTA, too. I enjoyed COTA, even in the rain and all that stuff. But the stage breaks and where the cautions fell just really took me out of it because it didn't seem like strategy was all that important as it should be. And when you don't have, balls to the wall racing with guys going all over the place, running into each other, beating and banging each other, and even when you do, you don't put that on screen. But if you don't have that throughout the majority of the race, it can kind of make it kind of a lull period, especially when Hendrick is just kind of dominating. Clearly, Kyle Larson had the fastest car all day. I mean, I saw Chase Elliott drive the wheels off that thing, and it just looked like he could not catch him. It was amazing. I had never seen anything like that. But even then, when you don't have that, you have to showcase other things, and I just think it was lacking. It was lacking.
I think that goes to the, not to interrupt you, sorry, but I think that just kind of goes to the overarching theme that the rear half of the field just isn't getting covered.
No, it's not. There's lots of stuff that's going on back there that we don't get to find out. And that's what's really upsetting me is because I don't care. I understand, they probably don't want to showcase all the Rick Ware cars. But, dude, if the Rick Ware cars are in an accident, we kind of need to know. We kind of need to see that. You can't just keep your camera off the last, 10 cars in the field because you don't want to see them. As a camera dude, you're supposed to, at the very least, try and get the most of the field as you can. And here's this. Here, I'm reading about this that I just pulled up. I had just read this on Facebook. I'm going to see if I could pull it up. But this crazy fact that did you see this? Did you hear about this? On the last lap, surely you saw about McDowell and Daniel Suarez. They got into it, right? Well, yeah. I guess Fox decided, and we saw this. Well, Fox decided they weren't even going to talk about this. Here, look, it's from Reddit. Contact between Suarez and McDowell on the last lap. McDowell wrecked Suarez off turn 5. Then Bowman wrecked the 34. And then when the 99 and the 34 got get back to each other, Suarez wrecked McDowell for what he had done before. Did you know what we saw of that? We saw Suarez wrecking McDowell coming to the finish. That was it. We did not see any of that. And I understand it's the last lap. I understand you don't want to show that live. But to not have a replay is pathetic. I mean, this is drama. This is something that would have made the majority of people who are going to vote on Jeff Gluck's poll say, yeah, it was a good race. This is stuff that you want to have to promote. You want to have this footage to showcase. You want to have something to talk about on Race Hub and not just fill it with fluff pieces that nobody cares about. For crying out loud, this is just sad. I mean, there was more to this race, I think, that fans in the stands saw than we did on TV. And this is a recurring theme. I've talked about this before. But really, on a road course like this, you need to have this. Now, no, I'm not saying you need to do a F1 TV direction in Monaco where the only on-track pass happening all day and you cut over to Lance Stroll. No, there's plenty of on-track passes that we could be showing. We don't need to see the gap from Kyle Larson to Chase Elliott is 5 seconds. We know that. I'd like to see some more action further back in the pack.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can't add to any of that. That would be of substance. Yeah, it's certainly when you can't just look at a car and dissect his strategy.
And it's not like that's easy anyway because they only have 2 pit reporters.
Yeah.
How are you're asking 2 pit reporters to cover 38 to 40 cars every week? Good luck. And one of them isn't even all that good. I don't think Regan Smith is all that great of a pit reporter. I don't know what he's doing out there. I think Jamie Little is pretty much hauling everything on her back, and when she doesn't have Vince Welch out there to help, I mean, it's just a complete disaster. I don't understand why Fox has only 2 pit reporters for most of this, because this is really hurting the broadcast as a whole too, because we don't get strategy from other teams. We know the strategy of the top 10, and well, really, that's not that interesting. I'd like to see the strategy from the guys that are trying an alternate strategy, somebody who's trying something completely different and crazy. We'll never know if a Rick Ware team decides that they're going to, stay out for like the first stage and a half and try and make it on fuel, if that's even possible. I don't know. I'm just saying, let's say a team decides they're not going to pit the whole first stage. Let's say that's possible. You have a pit window where that's possible. Let's say. I doubt that Fox is even going to cover that. They're going to say, oh, this person stayed out, and not talk about the strategy because they don't know about the strategy. And that makes it so frustrating to watch when you don't know anything and all you can see is cars gapping each other. I mean, you have to add more to the broadcast. And I think that's what's really hurt NASCAR, not just this year, but in general for the past couple of years, is just this overall lack of care with broadcasts. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there again, Josh. I'm going a lot, but this has just really been frustrating for me because I really want and I really feel like NASCAR is very good. They put on very good races, but we can't see them during the race.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Rob, we could sit here and we could have a special episode of how different the sport is from a coverage standpoint, from radio to print, online, and television in just the last 20 years. We could sit here and we could talk about that, and it is one of those deals where, like, hey, I think in an era where it is easier to watch it on your cell phone, on a mobile device, anything. It doesn't matter if it's NASCAR, if it's baseball. You don't need television right in front of you. You can do it from anywhere. That product needs to be dang good. You know, if we want to even get to a point where we have double-digit figures again watching the Daytona 500, the product's got to be good. The product's got to be there. And I think, and I would be shocked. All right, I would be shocked to learn that this wasn't a priority in the next TV contract. Because Rob, I don't think we're the only ones thinking about this. And I know there's other people online on social media who share this. There's other journalists who talk about it. So I know we're not the only ones thinking it. I would be shocked not to be thinking that the people who will be the decision makers for the TV contract aren't having these discussions. Before we move on there, obviously, there's one thing I wanted to know before I ask you about this question. But, Kyle Larson's win and Chase Elliott's second place, Hendrick Motorsports ties Carl Kiekhaefer's team for a record 4 races with 1-2 finishes in a row. I mean, goodness gracious, can they do it again at Nashville? They're probably hoping, dang it, I wish this was a road course or this was a track that we're really darn good at, like a Pocono or something. But that's pretty cool. I didn't know about that. That record has stood since 1956. Can they just totally break it at Nashville? Let's see. That'd be kind of cool. Again, history. I'm all about seeing history being made and records being tied or broken or somehow succeeded, whatever. But Rob, we sat here approximately 2 years ago. We said goodbye to DW. All right, we said goodbye to DW and the Fox broadcast team. But we also said hello again to the carousel, which it wasn't that great, and I think we both had criticism of it, but it was a different aero package. I thought the carousel was pretty darn good this year around. I enjoyed the racing that came out of it, and I think we saw cars get loose, which we didn't see there last year. We saw side-by-side, which was impossible. I said last year. I said the last time we were there back in 2019. I thought it was an improvement and a step in the right direction. What were your thoughts on that?
I still don't like the carousel. I'm sorry. I don't think it makes for the best passing. I think the course that they had been using previously was a better course for passing. I felt like there were more opportunities to pass, and it was a shorter lap, which kind of made it more entertaining. It just felt quicker and faster. I think with the carousel, you really don't have as many opportunities to set up a pass as easy as you did. I'm not, and it's probably purely down to a taste thing. I'm sure that there's a lot of people who prefer the carousel at Sonoma. I didn't like the fact that IndyCar used that carousel, that inside. I would have preferred if IndyCar had used the outer loop like NASCAR did, and I would prefer NASCAR to go back to that outer layout. I know it's probably not going to happen, but I mean, that's just me. I just don't personally feel like the carousel opens up enough passing zones for these Cup cars. I'm sure some people are going to disagree with me on that, and that's totally fine, but that's just my opinion. I thought that back in 2019, and I really didn't see anything on Sunday that makes me think any differently. Like I said, I felt very strongly that I think on the last lap you would have seen much more. You would have seen Chase Elliott have been able to get closer to Kyle Larson and maybe bump him out of the way. I mean, you saw it. I mean, watch the last lap of that race, of Sunday's race, and then watch the last lap of like that 2016 race between Hamlin and Tony Stewart. You can literally see the passing zones and how much different it is setting up a pass. I mean, Tony Stewart has multiple opportunities to set up the pass on Hamlin, and Hamlin has multiple opportunities to set up the pass on Stewart again, and they do end up swapping the lead multiple times. Hamlin obviously wheel hopping into the final turn is what really did it, but even before then, I mean, Stewart was still able to pass him, and I'm just of the thinking that the old layout was better, but I could be just talking out of my butt. I just think the old layout had better ways to set up your pass, and the carousel kind of slows that down because I don't think it's super easy to follow behind the carousel. And then when you're coming off the carousel, because it's not easy to follow, it's hard to really get a run into the turn, into the next hard braking zone. Whereas on the previous one, you could really just kind of follow them through the first sector of the course, and then once you got into that, essentially the outer loop, I guess, you could follow them and set them up through the S's. And as you're following them through the S's, you could set them up for a better pass into the hairpin. That's just me. But hey, maybe you see it differently, and if that's the case, great. But that's just how I feel it. I feel like it was better racing in the previous configuration.
I disagree with you. I see your point, but I think with the carousel, I think you still have the same passing zones. You just got to figure out a way to pass them in a different way. I think what the carousel adds, though, is another opportunity for a driver to make a mistake and in a non-passing zone, overcooking the brakes. You want to get through the carousel as quickly as you can, as smooth as you can, without scrubbing off as much speed. It does take a different skill set to do that than run the chute. I think that's what it adds. I don't think it takes away a passing zone. We saw passing in the carousel and it's hairpin turn.
Yeah, I didn't want to say like either there's no passing. There's still passing. I just think in terms of there being more to the setup that was really what made it fun to watch. I guess that's just my feeling.
I would like. Oh, go ahead.
Take it for what it will. Take my opinion with a grain of salt. I'm not saying like there's anything wrong with how you feel or people liking the carousel. It's still a good circuit. I just think for the Cup cars, the chute was a better layout.
And that's fair. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave the conversation at that. Rob, why don't you take us through the weekend wrap up here? Because I'm sure you watched some of these. I know you watched some of these races that I couldn't. And at the end, we can kind of discuss what we saw in the last race.
Well, yeah. So I actually really enjoyed a lot of these races. So F2 was in Baku this weekend. Really, really good races. A lot of good races. Difficult qualifying sessions. A lot of accidents happened during qualifying. It was really pretty interesting, but race number 1 was won by Robert Schwartzman. He gets his first F2 win of the season, which is crazy to think about, but really needed that. He had a lot of bad luck the last couple of weeks. Robert Schwartzman had Bahrain, Monaco were not easy races for him, but came back and won it at Baku, and that's probably going to save his championship because he's really going to need to grab a championship this year if he's going to have any shot at getting to Formula One in the future. Race 2 and race 3 were won by basically the guy I've been hyping up on this show since 2019, since it started, Yuri Vips. So glad to see Yuri finally get his first F2 win, not just in a sprint race, but then do it again in the feature race. Basically becoming, I think, the first person, not the first person this year, but one of the first people to win a sprint race in the feature race. Still, nobody has swept the weekend in Formula 2, but winning a sprint race and a feature race is now possible. Which is really good. So Yuri Vips able to win 2 races. So that's huge for him in the championship. Huge for Robert Schwartzman to getting that win in the championship. Definitely it's going to be a fun time watching the Formula 2 championship go on. They're going to be, I believe, again in France. Sorry that we have to go to France, but hey, F2 is going to be good no matter what, I promise. Actually, that was the first time I started watching F2 was France 2018. It was the first time I really started getting into it. Right after Monaco, I watched a little bit of Monaco, and 2018 was when the first time I really started getting into it because I realized, oh my gosh, finally! I didn't realize it until like then. Oh hey, these are on ESPN3 now. I could just watch these. So it was pretty cool to be able to watch those for the first time because again, we didn't have the ability to watch F2 live on when it was GP2. And even in 2017 when we were on NBC. So it was really cool to have that. But ARCA Menard Series, they were at Mid-Ohio. I saw this at a place called Beer Church in New Buffalo, Michigan. Ty Gibbs won that race. That was a fairly decent race. Again, modified pit stops kind of take away a lot of stuff, but that's how ARCA is. So I'm giving ARCA the benefit of the doubt there. I still thought it was, for what it was, a decent race, I guess. But the ARCA Menards are west at Sonoma. That was that was the one that you wanted to see. Chase Briscoe won that. It was a fun race to see Chase Briscoe go out there and basically have fun again. Poor guy has just been having one heck of a time in Cup, and it was great to see him go out there and win another race. Actually, for the first time, I mean, you thought I was going to win at Charlotte, but no, he came back and ended up pretty much whipping the field in the ARCA Menards West at Sonoma. And then eNASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series was at the Chicago Street Course over the past week, Wednesday. James Davison won that, so how about that? Again, more Rick Ware Racing drivers winning those iRacing races, so that's pretty neat to see that. So, but that's the weekend wrap up. That's everybody who also won a race this weekend. There was also Formula 4 races. There was the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring was this weekend, but boy, man, that had some really bad rain come in and affect it. I don't know if you've heard about this, but Spa was flooded as well over the weekend. So definitely a lot of rain in Belgium and in Germany over the past weekend. Hey, Sebastian Montoya got his first podium in Italian F4, I think, of the season. Saw Juan Pablo Montoya post about that, so that was pretty interesting to see. But other than that, that was pretty much a weekend wrap-up. I'm sure there was other stuff I missed, but I didn't really have a lot of time to watch it because, like I said, I was out traveling on Thursday and Friday, so I was kind of taking a rest on Saturday, so oh well. But hey, Josh, I think it's time to move on to the outstanding performance.
Before we do that, what was your kind of thoughts on the Chicago Street Course deal? I thought it turned out a little bit better than I expected, but I know we're both kind of I know you're kind of on the side of not really for street courses in NASCAR, but He goes shaking his head for sure. I mean, I think it'd be interesting if it's in the right place. I did like James Davison doing the plug. This would go a lot better in real life than on the simulator, and I would tend to agree with that. But I think, hey, iRacing did a great job putting that together and creating that track, and I kind of wanted to take a turn at it myself, but I
mean, it's cool in a video game. It's just when it gets to life, it kind of bothers me because you have a perfectly good speedway just down the road that you're now pretending no longer exists and they're letting go to rot because, I don't know, the land's too valuable, I guess. Well, why not make the land, why not capitalize on the land's value? Don't sell it, make it more, do something with it. I don't know.
All right, well, we'll go into the outstanding performance before I unwrap Rob's brain too much.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep this short, and I'm getting all like short. Passionate about everything.
Yeah, I know. I'm just teasing you to go off the rails, and it's not the episode to do that. I'm sorry. All right, outstanding performance, Rob. Share yours with the good people listening.
Yeah, so actually, I've got to give mine to somebody who I think deserves it. Somebody who a lot of people question every week whether or not he really deserves the seat that he has. A lot of people wonder, why is this guy here? He doesn't do a lot. No, I gotta say, from somebody who started last to pretty much come one spot shy behind your teammate, come one spot shy of a points finish, and survive the craziness and the last restart and to make up, almost 5 spots from the start of the race, Antonio Giovinazzi gets my outstanding performance. No, you're not going to look at him and say, oh, wow, this guy finished in the points. No, he didn't finish in the points. He finished 11th, right behind his teammate, Kimi Räikkönen. But considering the fact that he qualified dead last, made up what was essentially 9 spots in an insane race, and managed to avoid all the carnage, managed to avoid everything, keep his head down, do straight, do smart. I was sitting there the whole time. I was like, Gio is going to get points. Just mark my words. I said it from pretty much the start of the race. As soon as I saw him take off and make up so many spots from the start, I said, Gio is hungry for points. He's going to come and get points. And man, I think it maybe if Alpha was a team orders style people, maybe in a different world, Kimi gives a position to Gio, but I don't think that would ever happen. I think they would prefer Kimi over Gio every day. But dude, Gio, man, props to him. I mean, you're right behind your teammate. You start last. Kimi started well in front of him, and he still finished 1 spot behind him. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Again, not a performance that's going to light the world on fire, but considering the car that he's in, considering where he started, and considering all that he had to deal with throughout the race, Giovinazzi getting a P11 is pretty damn impressive. So I got to give my outstanding performance to Antonio Giovinazzi. I think he deserves a lot more credit than what he gets for driving the old Alfa Romeo. I know that Kimi and Gio don't have the fastest cars, but they're two of the more underrated drivers that I think could still do it, but their cars just aren't capable of showing what they can do. So that's my opinion. That's why I'm giving mine to Gio this week. Josh, who's yours?
I think yours is a great pick. I don't think that's a bad pick at all. I'm giving mine kind of the opposite direction you went. I'm going with Sergio Perez. Simply for the fact, not that he won the race, but that who he kept behind him to win the race. Because I think the winning move wasn't on the restart of that race. I think the winning move happened laps before that, when Sergio Perez was able to keep Lewis Hamilton behind him in both DRS zones to stay ahead. Because, I mean, look, the same thing had happened to Hamilton overshooting turn 1, even if he was in the lead, even if he started first. The same thing could have happened, but we will never know. But what we do know is that Perez did what he was hired to do. He said, hey, I just did what Red Bull hired me to do, and that was to keep the Mercs behind me. And again, you mentioned it before, I just don't think any of Red Bull's junior drivers, current or past, could have done that. That takes an experienced driver who has a number of Grand Prix under his belt to do. And yeah, he only has 1 Grand Prix win prior to this weekend last year in Bahrain. But look, Sergio's a good driver. He's a talented driver, and he's a great... I don't like to call him a number 2 at Red Bull, even though that's probably honestly what he is. But he's a great teammate for Max Verstappen that is going to pull his weight in gold in this points championship, whether it's driver or constructor.
Red Bull definitely needs somebody who can step up when something bad happens to Verstappen, because the fact of the matter is Max is going to be a really, really, really aggressive driver, and sometimes he's going to and it's going to end poorly. Leading or Max crashed going for it. We need a podium. Get us some good points out of this. And they found that in Sergio. And you mentioned, I don't think, Red Bull 5 minutes on YouTube of just him throwing ridiculous blocks. Schumacher probably should have known exactly what he's going to get when he rolled up on it. But my point is, it's tough for rookies. Red Bull, they promote guys and they chew them up and they spit them out. The thing is, I think the best thing they could do is keep someone like Gasly at Toro Rosso for as long as they can, because I don't think Gasly's that bad of a driver. I think he's really good. Obviously, he's got to win a Monza now. He's got a podium at Baku, and this podium at Baku was purely on merit. I don't think anybody could take anything away from this podium. This was 100% on merit. He fought for it. Leclerc passed him, once or twice on the last lap, and he still kept him in front of, kept him behind
once,
him.
And but he tried to pass him multiple times.
He tried to pass, and he held him off. That is Pierre Gasly is really good. So, if there comes time where Perez decides to hang up the helmet, or if Red Bull and Perez decide to go separate ways, or even if it happens to Verstappen, I think Gasly will then be ready for Red Bull, and I think they should take a look at him. But right now, Perez was the right decision, and 110% it's proving to pay off.
Absolutely. All right, Rob. I don't know how we're doing it, but we're keeping our promise here. We're an hour and 17 minutes into this show. Let's not let that go to our head as we enter in our next segment here, the upshift, downshift. We got 4 questions this week for you, folks. If you're new to this show, hey, upshift, downshift is, upshift you agree, downshift you disagree. We might throw it into neutral. It might happen today. It's happened in the past. Will history repeat itself? No, I'm not going to go down that road of trying to imitate some of the racing's greatest broadcasters. I haven't earned the right to do that, nor can I. I don't have the voice for it. But hey, we got some questions that are hypotheticals or news related or something someone said during a race weekend, which is question number 1. Let's just jump into it. In post-race, Ty Gibbs said that the 16, AJ Allmendinger, ran him a little dirty, referring to the 3-wide move on the restart. Do you upshift or downshift, Rob?
How about this? You talked about how rare it is, or how sometimes it happens. We throw it into neutral. I'm putting it into neutral to start off the show, to start off the segment. The reason why I'm doing this is because, look, man, Ty's a little young. Ty's younger than me. Ty is really good driver, but I think his perspective of being run a little dirty is a bit different from what I think other people might think of that situation. I think his perspective of that will come with age, where it'll change a little bit, and he'll learn that, okay, AJ, I don't think AJ was trying to be dirty. I think if he was trying to be dirty, he would have turned him. I think he would have been a lot more reckless on the pass. I think this was just a situation where you had a lot of people going for the same piece of real estate to win the race. And that's just race. That's race and deal. Ty can look at it and think it was a little dirty. That's fine. That's his prerogative. But at the end of the day, I don't think Allmendinger intended to go in there to do anything other than try and get the lead. I don't think he was trying to wreck anybody. I think he was just going for the lead. If someone turned out to be collateral damage, well, that's racing. Again, that's racing. You've got to go for it. You've got to go for the gap. Especially when you're in stock cars like this on a road course, yeah, you're free to use the bumpers. You're free to use the fenders. Go in, get in there, go for it. You've got opportunities to do it, and I think Allmendinger did the right thing. I think Ty, with time, will probably look back on that and be like, yeah, it wasn't what I would do, but he won't be able to blame Allmendinger for doing it. It might not be something he would personally do, but I don't really think he can blame AJ for doing it. So that's why I'm putting it into neutral.
I'm kind of I'm neutral to downshift on this one. Mainly because I just don't think he saw a replay. And I think if he saw a replay and he saw how the race was going to restart, he was going to have to get on Cindric's, quarter panel and side draft and just try to keep him up against the grass, right? That was his job at that point. That was his opportunity to take the lead. Well, by doing that, or anyone doing that, the roles with Cindric and Gibbs reversed. Allmendinger's going to take that open door, and that's what was so confusing, that Cindric chose the outside, because if Cindric chooses the inside, Allmendinger doesn't get that run to the inside, doesn't take him 3 wide, because at that point, yes, that's not dirty, that's just reckless. All right, you're probably going to take out 3, 4, 5 cars in that situation. But yeah, I kind of go like, it's tough to Monday quarterback or like 5 o'clock quarterback what a driver said in a post-race interview when they haven't seen a replay in the heat of the moment, which is why I love, racing. Yeah, you might talk to a football player or two after a game, but you may not talk to the guy who made that tackle and he got yelled at by the guy until 30 minutes afterwards where he's had time to cool down. Racing, you talk to the driver. You might even talk to the crew chief in some situations where we just didn't. There was no time to cool off. You stuck a camera and a mic in my face right away. So I'm kind of neutral to downshift, but more so on the neutral side. I can't really decide. I'm sorry, folks. I'm cheating the game here. All right, next question here. Not counting Monaco or the yet-to-be-run courses in Saudi Arabia or Miami, Baku is the only worthy street course on the F1 calendar. Do you upshift or downshift?
That's an easy upshift. I mean, let's be honest. Monaco, in comparison, is garbage. Singapore is complete garbage. I'm kind of glad it got canceled, to be honest with you, because I was not looking forward to having to watch that race. Number one, Singapore goes too long because the track is too long, and I don't understand why Formula One prefers it when the Sepang circuit provided way better racing. I mean, it's one of the earliest Tilke tracks, but it's simply put one of his best outside of Turkey. So I really don't understand why they don't like that track anymore. But yeah, no, absolutely. Baku puts on worthy street course races. You expect to be able to pass on any course that you go to. In Monaco, you just flat can't. So here, I really have to say, yeah, I 100% would upshift. Baku is the only worthy street course on the F1 calendar. I don't know what we're going to see in Saudi Arabia, but based upon what the renders look like, I guess, what the video game videos look like, I'm not very confident that it's going to produce a lot of passing or good racing. And Miami, oh gosh, don't even get me started on this, how unnecessary it is. But yeah, man, Baku is one of the best ones. Like I said, I mean, it's wide, but it's fast, but it's tight, but it's wide where you want it to be wide. It's tight where you want it to be tight, and it's fast where you want it to be fast. It's a great racetrack. It's really one of my favorite. There's lots of elevation changes too, which is very unique for a street course. In general, it is a perfect track for Formula One, modern F1 cars at the very least, and it is fast. I love seeing those things fly down into the first turn, coming out on a full flying lap. That is really fun to me. I love Baku. Obviously, Azerbaijan, not the best human rights record, but if you're going to go to a Middle East place, they better at the very least have good racing at the track, and definitely Azerbaijan has some of the best racing of all of the Middle East tracks, outside of maybe the Bahrain outer circuit.
Yeah, I agree. Upshift. Yeah, I mean, Monaco, you got to keep Monaco. Monaco, the easy way to fix Monaco is 5 years, make the car smaller. You have better racing there, like we once did. Singapore, when it was canceled, this was me. Okay, I'm holding my phone and I'm looking at Rob. I'm like, bummer. That was my reaction to seeing Singapore was canceled. That's like the one race when I look at the calendar, I'm like, do I really have to watch this race? I wonder if drivers feel the same way. Do I really have to race in this race? Because it really isn't that great of a race at all. And again, I'm not going to pass judgment on Saudi Arabia or Miami yet, but the ones that we've run at, the ones that were on the calendar, yeah, Azerbaijan, keep going there. It's a great circuit. I can't add anything else. I just love it because they have not put on a bad show at all. And we couldn't go there last year.
Since 2016, every race at Baku has been memorable.
Yes.
I think I remember every race I've watched Baku, and every single one has been fun to the very end.
Yes, so they hit a home run on that circuit. Next question. The top 4 finishers at Sonoma were Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., and Joey Logano. The 4 are the top 4 favorites for the championship. Do you upshift or downshift?
Okay, so I don't necessarily know how to say this. I can't like half shift. It's impossible. Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott will 100% be in the championship 4, but I am not sold on Truex or Logano. That's pretty. I don't know how to shift, but that's how I feel.
I know how to shift. It's called neutral. Yeah, you
is that? But I agree with half of it.
Okay, well, we gotta think the statement as a whole. The statement as a whole.
Okay,
These are
the statement as a whole is no. So downshift. But Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott, yes. Right now, what they are doing is Truex and Logano have not been as consistently up front as Elliott and Larson have, and I think right now usually that summer stretch, if you can hit your strides in that summer stretch, it usually sets you perfectly up for the playoffs. We've seen that in the history, not just pre-playoffs, but pre-chase, but during the chase as well. You know, if you have a really good summer stretch, you can get it done. And it looks like, from what I'm seeing, Larson and Elliott are starting to hit their stride in this summer stretch. So I would not be surprised to see them win the next couple of races. I know Nashville is kind of a toss-up, but I still like Larson's chances there. It's really tough for me to pick somebody who's not Larson or Elliott, but it is really easy for me to kind of pick against Truex and Logano.
All right. Well, that was upshift, downshift. Not too bad on time. We did that in about 12 minutes. A little bit. That's not too bad. Not too bad at all. All right, so we're just about to hit the 1 hour, 30-minute mark, and we're going to go ahead and just kind of steamroll into the Rollers Featured Racetrack. Pun intended on that one. I don't know why I felt like that was necessary, but I did. I'm sorry, folks. It's been a weird day at work, and coming here doing this sometimes. The time's just off. It just feels like we got more to talk about in the show. But so Rollers Featured Racetrack here. I'm just going to jump into it. Would you consider Oklahoma part of the Midwest, or at least the typical Midwest? Do you think that Oklahoma is the ideal place to build a racetrack in the spirit of the Nürburgring? Well, back in the 1960s, promoter Bob Moore thought so. So Moore set his eyes on Oklahoma with the intent to build the, quote, Nürburgring of the Midwest. Yet there is no record of Moore ever visiting the famed German course. In the 1960s, Moore was based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there wasn't a lot of auto racing in this region. He chose a parcel of land about 1,100 acres in Manford, roughly 20 miles west of Tulsa. His initial plans were to build a 5.7-mile road course, which would have been the longest in the country, and an oval track along with a drag strip. He named the circuit War Bonnet Raceway Park in honor of the area's Native American heritage. Now, Moore promised a $3.5 million investment that included the best of facilities that money could buy and offer at the time, with garage space for 100 cars. Stands would hold 20,000 and an infield space for another 30. His commitment caught the eyes of the Northeast Oklahoma SCCA region, and of course, hey, new track being built, let's go there, right? When the first event arrived, those who attended found what was built was far, far less than Moore initially promised and promoted. The circuit was roughly 1.1 miles in length, mostly flat, and the sparse oak tree and prairie grass cover landscape, it wasn't much terrain change either. So, Nürburgring, it was not. Not only was a 3-story communication tower not present, as promised, but no buildings were built, period. In fact, driver Ken Jones visited the track and showed up just a few days before the first race there on a Tuesday, and the pavement hadn't even been laid. So the race is supposed to take place in 5 days. There's no pavement on the track. Crazy. And it wasn't until Friday that paving began, and it was just completed just before Saturday's first scheduled track activity, according to Jones. And he said, quote, the pavement was still warm when activities began. So could you believe that? I mean, that just sounds like 1960s Las Vegas.
What a mess.
Not Oklahoma. But anyways, despite the track's shortcomings, confidence in Moore wasn't lost completely, and many believed he would soon deliver what he promised as the years progressed. The SCCA scheduled a national event for October 1st and 2nd of the 1966 season. A reported 5,000 spectators attended the event, but some dispute that as the area is small and there was nowhere to hide. 5,000 people seemed a little high to those in attendance, including Jones. For the 1967 season, the track was expanded to 2.3 miles. This included more elevation change and a bridge over a deep gully that was narrow, and side-by-side racing was quite sketchy. The big race weekend 1967 was the SCCA Grand Prix Series event on June 25th, which was the predecessor to the Continental Cup. Gus Hutchinson won the event, which was his third straight win in the series at the time. The national race, contested in 1966, returned in 1967, with big Can-Am cars, among others, showing up to race as well. Bud Morley, in a Can-Am Lola Chevy, edged out Bobby Aylward's McLaren for the victory. It was during this time that the financial struggles of the track leaked out, and it became clear that financial obligations for the 1968 season were not going to be met. Local backing was found to help out for the 1968 season, and the track went into receivership. The track's survival was heavily dependent, though, on the upcoming National Trans Am race that Moore predicted would have 30,000 people in attendance.
Okay.
Yeah, this race took place on May 12th, 1968, and spoiler alert, it is the only National Trans Am race to ever take place in the state of Oklahoma. So,
not surprising.
All right. Mark Donohue won the race quite handedly, even though he may have led up in the closing laps of the race to, entertainment purposes. Hey, you're kicking our butts too bad, all right? He lapped basically everyone but 3 cars. The major excitement came when Malcolm Starr ran through 2 fences and into a spectator area, but no major injuries were reported. The race was red flagged and ultimately led to a penalty for third-place finisher Parnelli Jones. He evidently continued under the red flag, basically sped too quickly. We've seen a few of those penalties lately in NASCAR. You're going too fast under caution. Well, this here, he raced under the red flag. After a 2-hour debate, he would retain his third-place finish. In post-race, discussions were held for improvements needed for the 1969 race. It was all but planned, but no one knew at the time that 1969 edition would not take place. Only half of the predicted 30,000 spectators to this race, the War Bonnet 250, attended. So about 15,000 people were there. Many issues and improvements needed were for fan safety. Yellow cards nailed to trees marked the boundaries for fans. And there were no barriers to speak of for the cars. On top of that, when it rained, it made for horrendous parking conditions, leading to tow trucks being called to even extract Trans Am cars that planned to race. Hey, I'm stuck in the mud and I'm due to be on the start line in 5 minutes. You got a crane I can borrow? Yeah. Despite the issues, the track generally actually received positive reviews from SCCA officials and drivers, but received a lot of negative press that seemed to concentrate on the negatives of the track. So instead of saying, hey, great racing, great passing, it's a great layout, here's just a couple things they could improve on. They kind of just stuck on those couple things. In a program, Moore shared his dream for War Bonnet Raceway Park. Not only did he call it once again the Nürburgring of the Midwest, he foresaw War Bonnet Estates, a housing development, an 18-hole championship hole golf course, additional social and recreational amenities, and a 3,000-foot airstrip. So you could fly in, golf, watch races for the weekend, and then fly out again. Quite the ambitious gentleman. 2 SCCA Races were held in 1969, the second of which took place during the moon landing by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. So no one was really paying attention to the race. There was even one account that said, hey, there was a guys huddled around the back of a pickup watching the moon landing on the TV and listening to it. Okay. There's cars going on. I'm sorry, I digress. The death blow came when the track sponsor Sunray merged with Sun Oil to form Sunoco, and the sponsorship for the track was pulled. There were no more funds for the track, and for Moore, who was now living in the timing tower.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he would fight off developers in court, but his efforts were fruitless. So what happened to the track? Well, it actually still exists today.
Really?
Yes, still exists. But it serves a much different automobile role. After a few houses were built on the property, in repaving efforts in the early 2000s, today the main circuit is now the Keystone Loop for a neighborhood or a series of neighborhoods. And the houses actually line part of the original circuit, and there's some T-bone or T intersections and some just intersections in general. A few other parts that other neighborhoods have been built there. So if you're ever in Manford, Oklahoma, take a trip to the Keystone Loop, make a couple laps, but keep in note too that the bridge that goes over the gully has been widened, the bridge has been widened, so you won't get the full effect there. But you can still race, all but illegally. So we don't promote illegal street racing.
No.
We don't do that. That's a bad idea. But, hey, you and a couple of your buddies take your bikes and you can race around the loop that way. There's nothing illegal about bike racing if you want to do that. So, anyways, the track still exists. That's the crazy part. And I did not expect this when I was reading about this on Lost Road Courses by Martin Rudeau. I had never read about this track before. I had the book, never read about it because I try not to read about it until I want to talk about it on the show. And there we go. War Bonnet Raceway Park.
Well, all right.
The attempted Nürburgring of the Midwest. However, I would have said like American Central West. I don't even know. I don't consider Oklahoma part of the Midwest. I don't. I'm sorry.
What is it then?
I don't. It's not the Southwest. It's not the Southeast. It's just in the middle.
The Midwest.
It's not the traditional Midwest though. And I feel like it's probably the Midwest. I don't know.
Where is Kansas?
See, I consider Kansas the Midwest because it's a little more up north. I don't know.
Yes, okay, but if Kansas and Oklahoma are going to be so close to each other, why can't Oklahoma also be in the Midwest?
Yeah, I want them to pay higher fees to be part of the Midwest.
But man, okay, here's the way I see it. Everything from Indiana to the Rockies is the Midwest. Everything from Indiana to Maine is the East Coast, and everything from the Rockies out to California is the West Coast. That's how I've always seen it.
You consider Ohio part of the East?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, absolutely. I consider Ohio part of the East. It's further east. It's close to Pennsylvania. It borders Pennsylvania. What's Pennsylvania on the East Coast?
Okay. Well, hey, we're having a geography debate here, folks. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get on the Racing with Rob and Roller podcast.
We have fun here. Hey, good news is, though, that we've basically finished the show, so if people are tired of geography, they don't have much longer to listen to.
Exactly. We'll just move on from that. We'll debate about it and yell at each other off the recording camera. So what's in the windshield? Formula One is off this weekend now. As I mentioned before, because Canada got canceled, now Turkey got canceled. Hey, so they're going to race on June 20th at Circuit Paul Ricard for the French Grand Prix.
Sad.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious, too much blue. Too much blue.
I saw a video of someone who fixed Paul Ricard by just taking some of the different altering layouts. So it's not like it can't be done. They just choose not to. Yeah,
and it did look good. It did look good that way. The NTT IndyCar Series returns this weekend for a doubleheader at Detroit Belle Isle to Rob's angst there. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it
two
at
races. All. This is a sad thing, is people think that 2 IndyCar races, 2 Indy Lights races, and an IMSA race is supposed to be a good deal for everybody. It's like, yeah, except it's at freaking Belle Isle. I could think of so many better tracks to have that at. I mean, really, an Indy Lights at Belle Isle is not a great thing either. I can't imagine that will be in any way, shape, or form a good race.
We'll wait and see. We'll debate about it next week, folks, because that's what we'll talk about. And then, hey, this is something we've been waiting for a long time. The debut of SRX Superstar Racing Experience. That's at Stafford Motor Speedway on Saturday, June 12th. I won't be able to watch it live, but I will be recording it and we'll watch it hopefully sometime on Sunday. And I'm excited about this because I cannot wait to see what Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham are going to deliver.
I can't wait to hear Alan Bestwick.
That's very true, too. Very true. And then for NASCAR, they travel back to Texas this weekend. The Camping World Truck Series and Xfinity Series will race on June 12th. That's Saturday. Both are points races because the next day on June 13th, the NASCAR Cup Series will race its annual All-Star race for the first time at Texas Motor Speedway.
It's going to be 510 horsepower. And I just, oh my God. Guys, this weekend might not be the greatest weekend for racing, so just be thankful that what we had this past weekend was great.
In for Superstar Racing Experience. All right.
Okay, SRX. We're excited for SRX. Let's be excited for SRX and just kind of have to grin and bear the other races.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it. Hey, 143, almost 144. Richard Petty. I can't. What a time to turn to the conclusion here. So, hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. If you were new, we hope you enjoyed it. If you listened to last week's episode, it is a bit longer. If you're returning, we thank you for your continued support. Let us know how we're doing. Comment on what we post, and share what you share on social media. Add us, because I'm going to share our socials now. Rob on Twitter is at RPEETERS33. That's Rob Peters 33. I'm at roller_01, ROLLER_01. And the show's at Rob and Roller on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and search Racing with Rob and Roller on YouTube, and you'll find us. That's one way. If you're one of those people who like to listen to it via that, you might be listening to this on YouTube right now. We just don't know yet because we haven't published it yet. So we're just trying to predict the future. Anyways, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend. Even if the races aren't the greatest, enjoy that motorsports is back and, continuing strong, and we didn't lose any of it in the last year craziness. So, for Rob Peters, I'm Josh Roller, and this was the Racing with Rob and Roller podcast. Have a great week, everybody.